everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Laura, aka Glow with Lulu, and today we're going to be discussing all things contour. Before carrying on to the tutorial, it would mean a lot to me if you guys could subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell on so that you can get notified every time that I post a video. And without further ado, let's get on to the video. So on my giveaway video, I asked you guys what type of videos you would like to see from me, and I had a couple of recommendations for contouring videos. So I thought I would sit down with you guys today, teach you guys how I contour, my favorite contouring products in both drugstore and high-end options, as well as the difference between contouring and bronzing. Also, if you haven't entered my giveaway yet, it closes on the 31st of January, so make sure to go ahead and enter before it closes. I will link that video down below for you guys. Alright, so to start off, I already did my foundation and my concealer. I didn't set my face yet though, because our first step of contouring is going to be cream contouring. So you want to do this before setting your face with powder, because if you do this after powder, it's going to get really patchy, it's going to move around your foundation, so you want to do this before setting your face. Cream contouring is really going to help your contour stand out. It's going to make your contour last a lot longer on your skin as well, because you already have that cream layer and then that powder layer on top, and it's going to give you a guideline for when you go into the powder, whether it is powder contour or powder bronzer. So now, what is the difference between bronzing and contouring? There's a very thin line between the two, and a lot of people tend to mix them up and confuse them. You can definitely do one without the other. A lot of people, including myself, do use bronzer as a contour and bronzing step in one. Especially when you're in a rush, you don't really want to do the two steps and the contour, the cream contour and all of that. So a lot of people, when they're in a rush, they will typically use bronzer as their contour and their bronzer. And it's perfectly fine to do that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But you're not really going to get the exact same result as you would if you were to contour and bronze. So contouring is usually a lot more cool toned or neutral than bronzer. It really just depends on what goes with your skin color and skin undertone. So it's usually used to define certain areas of your face. So this can be your cheekbones, make your jawline look a lot sharper. It can also be used to give the illusion of smaller or bigger facial features. So for example, making your forehead smaller, making your nose look skinnier, or giving the illusion of bigger and poutier lips. Bronzer, on the other hand, is used to add warmth to the skin. So bronzer is usually a lot more golden or red undertone than a contouring powder or cream product would be, and it's going to help add warmth to the skin and kind of just give your skin a more sun-kissed effect, kind of like if you were to come back from a vacation and you were tanned. That's the effect that bronzer is going to give you. It's going to bronze your skin. Anyways, back to cream contouring. Cream contour is definitely an optional step. Typically, people with oily skin steer away from creams because they might slip around your face throughout the day or something. I have oily skin and I don't mind creams. In fact, I find that my makeup lasts a lot longer on my face when I go in with a cream product and a powder product on top. So it really just depends on what your preference is, what you're comfortable with, and stuff like that. Also, cream contouring can be a little intimidating at first, which I was personally intimidated from it at first. But with the right products, a bit of practice, and the right techniques, it can really up your makeup contour game. So my personal favorite contouring cream ever is actually the Smashbox Studio Skin Shaping Foundation, which is a foundation on one side and then a contour on the other side. I have the shade of the 1.2 foundation, which comes with the soft contour color. So I unfortunately found out the other day that this is actually getting discontinued. I was so devastated when I found out, because this is literally my favorite cream contour. It's the perfect undertone. It's not too cool, so it doesn't look gray on me, but it's not too warm where it looks like a bronzer. It's just such a perfect undertone. I also really like the formula. It's super blendable, looks super natural on the skin. Not a huge fan of the foundation, but the contour on this end is so good. I'm really sad to hear that it's been getting discontinued. And I'm literally like on the very last little bit. Like, this is the end. I was literally gonna repurchase this the other day, and I was on the Sephora website and I found out that it was gone, and it was a very sad moment for me. A good drugstore option for cream contouring, this is super old, so please excuse the packaging, but it is the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Makeup Stick. This is in the Contour Oaks on You shade. I haven't been keeping up to date with any good drugstore contouring products lately, so I don't know if there have been any new ones that have released, but this is one that I've been using for years and years, and I do really like it. The only downside is that this is a little bit too warm, so this is typically what I would use when I'm tanned in the summer, when my skin is naturally warmer, so it can suit my undertone a little bit better. When during the winter time, my skin tends to lean more towards a neutral undertone, so the Smashbox kind of color is typically better for me, but this is really, really nice for the summertime. So for today, I'm gonna go in with the Smashbox contouring product. So what I do is I will kind of smile. So you see how your cheekbones kind of lift when you smile? That is the illusion that you want to give your skin with a straight face. So you want to give the skin the illusion of a lifted cheekbone while you're keeping a straight face without having to smile. So you've probably heard of the trick of doing this while you're smiling and then going in and drawing a line, or even with blush. A lot of people do this. But the thing about that is that you're placing it right here, but then when you go back and frown, the contour will go down here. So it's not going to be in the place that you originally want it to be. So it's not going to give that same illusion of the lifted cheekbones. So what you want to do is you want to smile and then kind of memorize or remember where your cheekbone would be while you're smiling, and then do a straight face and then keep holding that contour stick right where it is. I'm doing it on this side. I'm not holding it flat. So the flat side is a bit too round and too thick for this step. So I do this on the side just like so it can be a bit thinner. But yeah, so you want to memorize where your cheekbone would be while you're smiling, and then with a straight face, you're gonna draw a thin line right underneath of where your cheekbone would be. Like that. Looks a bit crazy, but once you blend it all out, you'll see what I'm trying to do here. And then as I'm going further back, I start going into the flat side. So it's a bit thicker on this side right here. And I just connect it to the end of my cheekbone, so that when we're blending it out, it's all one seamless line. I also do a couple of dots just on the temple. Nothing too strong, because when you want to do your forehead, which I'm going to do now, I'm going to I just kind of draw a line right at the edge of my forehead where it meets with my hairline. This will kind of just tie in the cheek contour with the forehead contour. I also go ahead and do my jawline. For my jawline, I don't draw like a straight line all over my jawline. I just kind of focus it right here in that L portion of the jawline to make it look a lot more sharper. Like that. I hope you guys can see that. Another nice thing about this Smashbox product is that you do have a bit more playtime with it, so you can leave it on your skin and it's not going to set down and get harder to blend as you leave it sit. So you really have time to draw out all the contours, and wow, I really went way too heavy on this side. Let's ignore that. So you really have time to draw out the contours exactly and precisely without having to worrying about whether the contour is going to set down and be harder to blend. I also do like a tiny, like a little dot right on my chin. This will kind of make your chin look a lot shorter. And now on to the nose. So for the nose, I first start off by drawing a line right at the bottom right here, just to kind of make the nose look a bit more shorter and give the illusion of a more button-up nose. And then as for the two lines, so a lot of people get confused as to where they should draw the two lines, and then they end up either making their nose too big or too small. So a nice hack I like to do is wherever my nostrils end, like wherever the end of this nostril meet this nostril, I follow that into the sides of my nose, and that is where I draw my lines. I use those two places to map out where I want my nose contour to go. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So like that. Like that. So I just draw two lines in the center of the nose. I don't really draw a full-on line because this contour is pretty pigmented, so you can just blend it in. Last cream contouring step is I like to draw a line right underneath the bottom lip. This will just make your lips look a lot more poutier. Next up is the brush that you want to use. So you can definitely use a sponge to blend this out, although sponges, I would typically recommend using them if you're a bit more familiar with cream contouring, because they're a bit bigger and might be a bit harder to use. You want to use something a bit more precise. I like to use a foundation brush, like a buffing brush, but something that's a bit thinner, so it's not really round like a classic foundation brush. This is the foundation brush I used today, and then this is the cream contouring brush. So you can see it's a lot more flat, which kind of goes along with the shape that you want your contour to go. So I really like this one. The name has been wiped off of this, unfortunately. I cannot remember where I got this from. I think it was like Echo something. I want to say Echo Tools, but I'm not entirely sure, but it was Echo something. I remember that it was called the multitasking brush. That's what I remember. You can also use the same exact brush that you used for your foundation. Since you have a bit more foundation on it, then it will make your contour look a lot more natural and easier to blend as well. So this is a good tip that you can do if you're more of a beginner. So I just go ahead and buff this in using tapping motions like that. And I just follow the same shape that I drew the contour on. You want to make sure not to swirl it around or anything, because the last thing you need is to wipe off your foundation underneath, and then it's going to look super patchy and very ugly. So you want to make sure you're using just tapping motions, and it will just blend itself into the foundation. There's not really much that you need to do. And then I just kind of, when I'm blending it, I connect it to the edge of my nose. So this will give the U shape that you get when you're smiling. And then when it comes to the forehead, I kind of just blend it into the hairline so that there's not like one line that's darker than my natural color of the scalp. So then I just blend it in so that it's not that visible. As for the jaw, I just kind of blend it into the jawline to just kind of define a bit more. And then for the top side, I blend it into the cheek contour. So this will make it look like it's a 3, like the number 3. And then same thing for the chin, I just kind of buff it in. For the nose and the lips, I like to go in with a bit more of a precise brush. This is just a angled eyeshadow brush. It already has that shape that you want your contour to go, so it makes it a lot easier to blend. So I just go in and kind of blend this out all over the bottom of my nose. And then for the lines, I first kind of just buff them into the line that I want them to go. And then I connect the line with the bottom of my brow to kind of tie everything in together, as well as with the bottom contour that we did. And then I just buff and buff until it's blended. And then with whatever's left on the brush, I just kind of run it through the bridge of my nose around this kind of circular area. Okay, now you want to go back into either the sponge or the foundation brush that you used, and then you can just use that to fix this area right here. So some of the concealer got lost with the bronzer, so I'm just going to go back into the sponge and further blend out everything. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to blend out the creases as well, since we're going to be setting our under eyes. Okay, so moving on to setting the face. I already set my under eyes and my T-zone area, basically any areas that we did not highlight. One trick that I've learned is actually using a darker setting powder than the one you normally use, because this will help keep the dimension in your face. When you're using a powder that is universal, one tone, and you're applying it all over to the face, you're basically flattening everything that you just did out. You're completely wiping away all the contour that you just did. So what you want to do is you want to use that usual powder that you use on the under eyes, maybe the forehead, the chin, the like beneath the cheeks, any areas that you did not contour. And then you want to grab a darker powder for the areas that you contoured. So this will keep the dimension in your face after setting it. The one that I like to use is the Fenty Pro Filter Instant Retouch Setting Powder. This is the shade Banana, which is a bit too dark for me at the moment. This is actually my summer shade, so I use this when I'm tanned. Right now, since my tan has faded, this is a bit too dark for me, so I use it to set my contour. So what I do is, after setting my under eyes and everything, I will pick up a angled contour brush. This is the Sigma Large Angled Contour Brush. And I will put a little bit on the lid of the product, and I will make sure that this is really packed on with the powder, that all the bristles are coated. And then I will go in and set any areas that I contoured. So you can see now that the entire face is set, we still have the dimension that the cream contouring gave us without having to wash it all out with powder. Next step is either the powder contour or the powder bronzer. I like to go in with bronzer first and then powder contour. Personally, some people do the other way around, so you just need to find whatever works for you. There's no specific rule to this. But as you guys know, as I've mentioned a million times, my favorite bronzing product is actually a powder foundation. This is the Marc Jacobs Perfection Powder Featherweight Foundation in the shade 600 Cocoa. It's a sheer coverage foundation, so it looks super natural on the skin. It doesn't add too much color, but the color of this is the perfect amount of warmth without being like too orange on me. As for drugstore options, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzers, oh my god, these are so amazing. I use the shade Light Bronzer in the winter time and the Deep Bronzer in the summertime. First of all, they smell amazing. The packaging is really pretty. I really like the wave effect that they have on them. And they blend out so smoothly. They look so natural on the skin. And they're affordable. So I would highly recommend these bronzers. You guys know I'm just going to go into my Marc Jacobs Perfection Powder for today. I use the same brush that I use for setting my contour, which is the Sigma Large Angled Contour Brush. And I just apply this basically wherever I applied my cream contouring. So like I said, the cream contouring is going to help give you a guideline for powder, bronzer, and contour. This will also help to set it as well. So if you have really dry skin and you don't want to set it with a loose powder, you can just use your powder, bronzer, or contour to set the cream contour. I don't go in too much in here. I mainly just focus it on the outer edges. Same thing for the forehead, blending into the hairline and following the guideline of the cream contour. And then I just do the chin as well. For the nose contour, I use something a bit more precise again. This is the little eyeshadow brush that comes with all the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes. So it's a bit more precise on one end. It's like a precise smudger brush on one end and then a blending brush on the other. So I really like to use the precise side to lay down the product and then the blending side to blend everything out. I also do the same for the bottom lip. Okay, so on to powder contour. So I don't really do this a lot. It's mainly when I want like a really sharp contour that I do this, but I will sometimes go in with a more cool toned powder to further define the bronzing and the contouring that we just did. So what I like to use for this is either the bronzing powder from MAC. This is just the matte one. And although it's supposed to be a bronzer, it does a really good job at contouring because it is a bit more on the neutral side than the warm side. And then a good drugstore dupe for this is actually the Maybelline City Bronzer. It's a bronzer and contour powder. This is the shade 200, which is a very nice neutral color for people with either light to medium skin tones. I'm going to go into the Maybelline one today because I haven't actually used this in a while. I'm going to be picking this up on a BH Cosmetics number 4 brush. This came in a little set, so it doesn't really have a name, but it's kind of like again, a really flat and straight buffing brush. You can use this for foundation since it is pretty dense, but I like to use it for powder contour. So I just go in very, like, I dip into this once, literally. I don't do a lot of this. Tap off the excess. And then right at the edge of the contour, I just kind of pack this on. And I focus this, like, right here. Like, right underneath the contour. I do not apply this everywhere. Again, in the forehead, also focusing it way at the hairline. Not bringing it too far down. And then the jaw. I don't do this for the nose and lips. I mainly just focus this on the cheeks, jaw, and forehead. So that is it for today's video, you guys. I went ahead and just applied some blush and highlight and lip gloss to finish off the makeup. I literally have nothing to do today but go to class, so I didn't really want to do anything too extravagant. If you enjoyed watching this video and feel like you learned a lot about contouring from watching it, then make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and turn the notification bell on so that you can get notified every time that I post a video. If you have any other contouring or bronzing or any other questions that you would like to ask me, feel free to go ahead and ask them in the comments down below, and I will be more than happy to answer them. That is it for me today, you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Do's and don'ts, tips and tips. Definitely do one without a contour powder or powder. Favorite contouring in the comments down below. So I can't talk.